absolutely shameful that my profession is still populated by people who have spent the best part of a decade treating him like some sort of messiah. The BBC and other outlets are reporting the final disgrace of Boris Johnson as if there are two sides. Something that Boris Johnson knew they would do. He knew they would have to do, which is why I was reading his response to the report before the report had actually been published. It was embargoed until the publication of the report. And what it means is that the news agenda gets seeded with his pathetic attempts at exculpating himself, even before this absolutely monumental wedge of evidence against him has seen the light of day. In many ways, if this is the end of his career, and it's tempting, I think, to believe that it is, in many ways, the end of his career contains the explanation for all of it. False equivalence, bogus balance, blatant lies, epic hypocrisy, and constantly accusing the other side, in this case, ardent Brexiteer and Conservative knight Sir Bernard Jenkin, accusing the other side of doing all of the things that you yourself have done and yet deny. It's actually incredible. It only occurred to me as the light came on. I wasn't quite sure, I never am, how I was going to open up our conversation this morning. But that suddenly occurred to me because, as you know, I have the screens in front of me and everyone has to do it like this, except us. For some reason, I still haven't completely understood. Everyone has to pretend there are two sides to this story. Everyone has to pretend that Boris Johnson's behaviour is somehow defensible, even though the sovereign parliament, the checks and balances, the constitutional investigation into what he has done has concluded that he is as guilty as sin. Something that everybody honest already knew. But we have to do two sides. We have to invite Andrea Leadsom on to talk about why the bloke who runs the World Trade Organization understands less about the World Trade Organization than Andrea Leadsom does. We have to invite on Nigel Lawson to explain why all the scientists on climate change are wrong and Nigel Lawson and his friends in Tufton Street are correct. We have to invite governors of the Bank of England or heads of epic international economic organisations on to talk about economic situations. And then we have to invite some pillock from the Institute of Economic Affairs on to offer up an alternative view. That's why we are where we are. And Boris Johnson is proving that this morning in a way that is, frankly, inevitable and remarkable at the same time. Front page of the Daily Telegraph today is trying to claim that Liz Truss is about to be proved right about the economy. That, of course, after tanking £32 billion worth of it. So don't for a minute think that the problems disappear with Boris Johnson. Don't for a minute think that when Boris Johnson shuffles off this political coil, we can start the business of getting back to normal or restoring a semblance of, to coin a three-word phrase, professionalism, accountability and integrity. All right, 4 words, but you know what I mean. Because we're still in it. We're still in this mess. We're still in a country where the levers of political and media power are held exclusively by people who thought Brexit would be a good idea. And the truth can't reach the people until their hands are prized off those levers. So if you were expecting joy today or celebration, I'm afraid you're going to be disappointed. Today is a day to take pride in parliamentary democracy. It's a day perhaps to allow yourself a sigh of relief that one of the foulest cankers ever to pollute the body politic has apparently been removed in circumstances so complete that even he would struggle, although he will try. Be sure he will try. He has already tried to pretend that things are not as bad as they seem, or that he is a liar more sinned against than sinning, or that there is somehow a counter to his condemnation. There just isn't. There just isn't. But even after all these years, even after Trump and Johnson and Brexit, the media model and the political framework is not capable of recognising this reality. It has to pretend there are two sides. Even now, oh, here's Boris Johnson's resignation letter. Let's invite someone onto the programme to defend Boris Johnson. It's a bit like getting Harold Shipman's mum on the show to talk about how he did a bang-up job looking after kids with tonsillitis and that we should weigh that against his epic crimes. Where else does the guilty get corners of the media queuing up to claim that they've been badly treated? Where else does a man found by a jury of his peers to be beyond contempt, and indeed in contempt, where else can he rely upon corners of a supposedly impartial media dedicating themselves to finding people prepared to put his side of the story? Or prepared to pretend that his version of events might contain a single scintilla of truth, when every single day, every week, every month, every year of his entire life, whether in public or in private, has proved time and time and time again that he lies like the rest of us breathe. He lies to his wives, he lies to his mistresses, he lies to his colleagues, he lies to his constituents, he lies to the House of Commons, he lies about lying to the House of Commons. He lies to his party leaders, he lies to his employers, he lies to every single person that he ever comes into contact with. And yet today you can still turn your telly on or your radio on or open up a newspaper and find somebody pretending that this time he's not lying. He lies to Nadine Dorries, bless her little cotton socks. She's struggling at the moment to remember what the meaning of the words "with immediate effect" actually are. So bent is she by her continuing loyalty to a man who will lie about anything and everything, even the things you think that nobody would dare to lie about. I'm reminded of, is it Billy Bunter, covered in crumbs, denying that he's eaten any cake, covered in pie juice, wrapped around his chops like Christian Dior lipstick, pretending that he has. I haven't eaten any pie. You've literally got pie falling out of your mouth, Bunter. I haven't eaten any pie. It's all Bernard Jenkins' fault. Anyway, I heard Bernard Jenkins ate a pie once. It's absolutely incredible how completely Boris Johnson's latest travail proves the depth of the damage done to this country, the depth of it, the sheer extent of it. The people in this profession who've spent a decade tickling his toes. Without that, of course, none of this could have happened. You're talking about a Prime Minister standing up in the House of Commons and lying through his teeth time and time and time again. Lying about events that were unfolding when the rest of us couldn't even kiss our mothers. Parties, puke being cleaned from the corridors of Downing Street, children's swings being broken by carousing colleagues, lie after lie after lie after lie. And even now they try to tell you it doesn't really matter and we've all moved on and it was only a bit of cake and nobody really cares. And it all matters. And what perhaps matters most is the complicity. The people responsible for telling him to stop. The people responsible for telling you what he was really like. The people who thought he's just a good bloke. Oh, he's just a bit of fun. Oh, good old Boris. He shouldn't be held to the same rules that everybody else should be held to. Absolutely shameful that my profession is still populated by people who have spent the best part of a decade treating him like some sort of messiah, when anybody with an ounce of integrity, honesty or professionalism could see that he was a disgusting, despicable liar who has disgraced this country, disgraced our parliament and disgraced our politics. And it doesn't go away with him because they still edit the papers. They still cow in the corridors of the BBC, worried that the right-wing media might turn on them if they offer up an honest account of what Boris Johnson has done and where he is today. Absolutely incredible. Front page of the Mail today, astonishing Partygate twist. Boris's Tory accuser went to wife's birthday drinks party in lockdown. A supposed newspaper of record approaching the imminent revelation that an actual Prime Minister embarked upon a course of behaviour so completely unprecedented and despicable that a jury of his own peers recommends a suspension from the House of 90 days. Count them, 90 days. The removal of the pass that is normally a prerequisite for all former MPs. And the Daily Mail is focusing on a bunch of nonsense from a far-right blog. Absolutely ridiculous and yet utterly of a piece with the mess that we've been led into by these people. Turn your telly on Sunday morning, Laura Kuenssberg will probably be pretending that Boris Johnson has simply faced quite a charge. That's quite a charge that you've laid against the Prime Minister. The Select Committee, populated by a majority of Conservatives, has made quite a charge against the Conservative Prime Minister. And here's Guito Harry to offer up a defence of the man. Absolutely incredible. And you wonder why we are where we are? Well, that's why. People can't see the wood for the trees. People can't see the truth for the lies. People can't see the importance of parliamentary sovereignty and parliamentary democracy because they've spent the last 7 years pretending that it was somehow compromised by being in the European Union. They are too stupid to understand how ridiculous they look this morning because they use words that they do not understand the meaning of. So put the champagne back in the fridge. It's not time to celebrate, it's time to ruminate on how the hell this happened and how it can continue to happen. How I can turn now to pretty much any screen in the country, or turn on pretty much any other radio programme in the country, or open up pretty much any newspaper in the country and find people still prepared not just to defend him, but to pretend that he is the victim of a witch hunt, that he is the victim of a hit job, that he is the victim of a smear campaign. It's not normal what's happened to this country. It's not normal and it's not right. And almost everybody whose name you know in the field of politics and media bears some responsibility for what has happened. So put the champagne back in the fridge. Put this pathetic attempt at poo-pooing the findings of an independent Commons Select Committee populated by a majority of Conservative MPs, put it in the bin. Put it through the shredder. Put him where he belongs, in disgrace, in the corner, forevermore, and stop pretending that there are two sides to every story. We don't do it elsewhere in life. We know what's right, we know what's wrong, we know what's good, we know what's bad, we know what's true, we know what's false. We know what Boris Johnson is. Some of us always have.